In our session, we're going to look into the option to upgrade your Apache Tomcat installation that is delivered with WebFOCUS. So currently here, I'm using WebFOCUS 9.3.3, which comes with a relatively recent version of Tomcat being 9.0.9.4. So again, that tutorial here is mainly focusing on WebFOCUS 9. If you're on an older version of WebFOCUS, any type of 8 version, you might want to update to a recent version of WebFOCUS first to make sure you're gonna be able to apply those changes. Okay, so now I want to go and update my 9.0.9.4 version to a more recent version, which is currently at the time I'm recording the video, the version is 9.0.1.2. I'm going to stay within the 9 track. If you're on Windows, download the 64-bit Windows zip file here. Don't use the installer. If you're on Linux, you might want to go for the tar or the zip file and use that version to really update your system. So I already downloaded that file, so we can go to the folder. So in here is my Tomcat. So to update the system, you might want to you have to make sure you stop certain services on the machine. So of course you have to stop your Tomcat application service. So stopping that one first. So secondly, I'm gonna do a change and stop my WebFOCUS services as well, at least the WebFOCUS ReportCaster service. So stopping or keeping the other service might be okay. So Tomcat is stopped. So now I'm going to look for the WebFOCUS ReportCaster, stop that one as well, because that one is using capabilities and functions of the WebFOCUS client as well. So you want to be sure to stop that one as well. So now we're going to navigate to the folder that contains the WebFOCUS Tomcat installation, which is usually in following folder in your IBI folder. And there's a folder called Tomcat. So go in there. And in here, actually, I personally usually go to the work directory because that one only contains temporary information. So you could easily remove that Catalina folder in here to reduce the size of that thing. So now we go back to the Tomcat folder, IB folder. So now I want to back up that one. So I personally always like to get a zip file of what I have or a 7-zip. So updating that one, and I'm going to pause the recording while it's while it's storing my files. Resuming the recording while my backup is done. So I got the compressed version. So actually, I personally like to do a copy of that folder as well. So, or actually, I'm going to create or rename that one here to Tomcat_old and keep that one. So I'm creating a new folder called Tomcat in here. So in that folder, we're going to move over to our location where I downloaded Tomcat. So let me clean up my window here a little bit. So we're going to go to my download here. And I'm going to extract everything from this folder into my Tomcat folder. So move it over here. Again, I'm going to pause recording so you don't have to watch that progress bar. Resuming the recording now. So we copied all the files in here. So now we have to make sure that we keep the WebFOCUS configuration. So actually there's a bunch of things. So if we go to our Tomcat old folder, if you don't know for sure what is different, you can also use something like WinMerge or another file compare tool to compare the folders. So I'm going to compare my Tomcat old with the Tomcat folder. So do the compare. In here, I can tell the system I only want to see certain files. I want to skip binary files. So I only want to see files that are identical. I don't want to see identical files, so get rid of that. I want to see different files. I want to see left and right unique files. So they're going to be able to see. And you also see there's a folder that only exists in the old folder, which is the JDK folder. Because by default, WebFOCUS 9 puts that JDK, the Java Development Kit, into the Tomcat folder. So you might want to keep that one. So we're going to copy that one over here. Again, if you want to learn how to replace that the Java version with a newer version of Java, there's a separate video on my channel explaining how to do that one. So step one, so we can refresh here. So we now know that the Java part is moved over. So that one is now identical and disappeared. So actually the most important things we want to look at is that conf folder. So if we look into the conf folder, we're going to see there's a bunch of files and folders. So it's missing Catalina completely. Context, server, and web.xml are the three configuration files that are relevant to us. So we want to go over there and move in here, Tomcat folder, Tomcat old. So go to the conf folder, go to the conf folder. So you want to copy the Catalina folder into your new Tomcat installation. That's the first step. Additionally, what we want to do in here, you see there's a bunch of things. So the web.xml, the server.xml, and the context.xml are the files that are relevant. Copy the server.xml completely, because that's the main config files, and replace it over here. For the rest of the files, you might want to check what's in there. So again, I can tell you the web.xml is actually a file. If you look at it, the only change in here is a bunch of command lines. So you can ignore it completely. So actually, I didn't meant to close WinMerge. So let's get WinMerge back. So whenever you open or close it. So again, go back to the conf folder. So we have one left. So we looked into one of them. So we got web.xml, we got content.xml. Again, content.xml, if I look in that one, there's one line that's relevant to WebFOCUS that was added in here, which is that caching thing here. So you see, that's the only change. So I can use WinMerge to sync that file. So I could click in here, copy that change to the right, and save my change. Or I could simply, of course, copy that configuration file from the old to the new installation. So that's all we had to do on the configuration level. There's a few more things that we want to look in. There's a web apps folder. So in case you're running any web applications in here, you might want to check. You see, by default, Tomcat comes with a bunch of internal things like documentation, some samples, the host manager, the manager. I don't want those. So let's get rid of them on the new installation. And there's something called IBI HTML. I want to keep that one. So I'm going to copy that one here from the old Tomcat folder to the new Tomcat folder. So that's actually all we needed in here to make sure that everything is synced up. So go back to the Tomcat, go back to the Tomcat old. There's one more thing we want to look into, which is the bin folder. So in that bin folder, then that's now something that's relevant. There's a bunch of startup scripts that you might want to double check if you made any changes. Again, you could use WinMerge, but usually there's no change in here. But there's one thing, which is that Tomcat 9 WF thing. If you click that one, you're going to see that one opens up the Windows service configuration. And that name here, that service name, that's the same thing you get if you double click in here. You get the same information in here. Oops, that was the wrong service, sorry. We have to go, of course, for Apache. If you click in here, you see that's the same thing in here, the service name. So that name of the file is linked to the name of the service in Windows. So don't copy that file from old to new. Go to your bin folder in the new Tomcat, and in here, copy the Tomcat 9W file. Copy it in here. And you just need that name. So you can go to services, copy that name from here. So copy that one and rename that file here to be the same name. Sorry, to be the same name than the service. So if I double click it, I can configure the service from in here. You can also update the service now, like change it to 102 to match your correct number. If I click on apply, I go back to services, You see it's automatically updated the name of that service in here. So we're completely fine in here. So that's totally fine. So we got what we need in here. So we got all the configuration, we got all the elements. So we can check back in our folders. Again, you can use WinMerge to compare. So go over here. You can always refresh my comparison in here. So as you see in here, we don't have much relevant information anymore. We can ignore the log folder. We can ignore the temp folder. Usually you can ignore the lib folder. You might want to look into it to see if there's anything in the lib folder that you think could be an issue. So if in case you want to open it up, so you see the folders are different. So you could compare them, but then you see nothing in here. But if you turn on binaries, you see, of course, a bunch of lib files, jar files that are different. So nothing relevant. So we changed, or we looked at all the relevant information already. So we should be ready to go now. So the only thing left is now spin up your Tomcat to see if it's successfully updated. So you can now start the service from here. And again, that one is going to take a while to spin up. So even if it started here, you can look into Task Manager and you're going to see there's some CPU load, which is the initial start. It's taking a while. So you can wait now for that CPU load to go down before you test. So I'm going to pause the video for now until that CPU goes down. Resuming my video, you see now the Tomcat service here is down to below 1% CPU usage, so it's quite low. That means Tomcat is completely started. So we can now go back to our browser in here. Again, that was the old one. So if you refresh, now we see it's Tomcat 102. So we updated to the new version. We can now, of course, go to the IBI apps folder as well and check WebFOCUS. So now we know, hey, we're fine, we're ready to go. You can also verify your installation progress in WebFOCUS itself. So if we load up our WebFOCUS homepage, which of course is going to take a little bit. So because we started everything from scratch. So the first start always going to take a little bit of time. So if we go to the administration console, diagnostics, you can in here go to the HTTP request info. So in here, you're going to see your application server, including version. You're going to get some more information in your session. You can also go to the JVM information. So you're going to see your Java load, but you're also going to see what's the Java version that you're using. So in here on my system, you see I already updated my Java version to use Adoptium OpenJDK. If you want to learn on how to do that update, feel free to visit my YouTube channel and check the Java update video as well. But in here, in your machine, it might show a different Java version. I personally like to update my Java version, keep it up to date to make sure it's going to work properly. Again, if you're doing the same thing on a Linux box, the process is going to be quite similar. Of course, it's going to be different interfaces to do the copy and compare of files, but the overall process to updating your Tomcat installation is quite straightforward and quite the same. So that method here allows you to keep your Java and your Tomcat version up to date if you want to. Again, that video, I only updated my Tomcat installation. If you want to learn on how to update Java, again, take a look at the video on the channel that shows where to update and how to update your Java installation to the most recent version for your personal use. Again, if you're quite sure everything works, I can go back to the IBI folder. Again, remember, we got those information in here. We got our Tomcat old, we got the Tomcat zip file. And I want to clear up my hard drive. So you might want to keep it for a while until you're quite very sure that everything works. But as soon as you know everything works, just delete those files and folders from the system to save up some disk space. And that's all you have to do to update your Java version to the latest version. Again, keep in mind, you want to be on WebFOCUS 9. The exact version doesn't matter. That what I did in the video is going to work for any version 9 of WebFOCUS. Have fun.